Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi attends Christmas celebrations, says Christ showed the world the path of compassion and goodwill. India's External Affairs Minister has Jaishankar to visit the US on Tuesday for talks on bilateral and global issues. Donald Trump appoints Indian American entrepreneur Sriram Krishnan as his advisor on artificial intelligence. Honda and Nissan of Japan launch merger talks to create the world's third largest car maker. And renowned Indian filmmaker Shyam Benegal passes away at 90. He was conferred the Padma Shri in 1976 and the Padma Bhushan in 1991. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday attended the Christmas celebrations hosted by the Catholic Bishops' Conference of India in New Delhi. He interacted with key leaders from the Christian community, including cardinals, bishops, and other prominent leaders of the church. It was the first time a Prime Minister attended such a program at the headquarters of the Catholic Church in India. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of India was established in 1944. It works the closest with all Catholics across India. Addressing the gathering, the Prime Minister said India gives priority to national interest as well as human interest in its foreign policy, while noting that the country cares for its people abroad and brings them back to the country when they face any difficulty.
भारत अपनी विदेश नीति में भी नेशनल इंटरेस्ट के साथ-साथ ह्यूमन इंटरेस्ट को प्राथमिकता देता है। कोरोना के समय पूरी दुनिया ने इसे देखा भी और महसूस भी किया।
Prime Minister Modi also said the teachings of Christ celebrate love, harmony and brotherhood, and that it's important for all to work to make this spirit even stronger.
The teachings of Lord Christ celebrate love, harmony and brotherhood. It is important that we all work to make this spirit stronger. But it pains my heart when there are attempts to spread violence and cause disruption in society. Just a few days ago, we saw what happened at a Christmas market in Germany. During Easter in 2019, churches in Sri Lanka were attacked. I went to Colombo to pay homage to those who lost in the bombings. It is important to come together and fight such challenges.
India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar will visit the US from 24th to 29th of December. The minister will meet US officials to discuss bilateral, regional and global issues. During the visit, the minister will also chair a conference of the Consuls General of India in the US. As US President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration approaches in January, his cabinet continues to take shape as Trump appointed Indian American entrepreneur Sriram Krishnan as the senior White House policy advisor on artificial intelligence. Amid all this, Trump slammed what he called unfair fees for US ships passing through the Panama Canal and threatened to demand control of the waterway be returned to Washington, D.C. In response, Panama's President Jose Raul Mulino said every part of the Panama Canal belongs to Panama and will continue to do so. Here's a report.
As US President-elect Donald Trump prepares for his inauguration ceremony on January 20, he is naming key officials to his administration. Trump has included several Indian origin individuals in his cabinet. Some of them have even spoken on India. On Sunday, Trump appointed Indian American entrepreneur and venture capitalist Sriram Krishnan as the senior White House policy advisor on artificial intelligence. Trump said Krishnan would shape and coordinate AI policy across the government. Earlier on November 30, Trump nominated Kash Patel for the powerful position of Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, making him the highest-ranking Indian American in his incoming administration. Trump also nominated former Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy to co-lead the newly created Department of Government Efficiency. Other prominent Indian American nominated by Trump are Dr. J. Bhattacharya, nominated to lead the National Institutes of Health, Tulsi Gabbard, nominated as Director of National Intelligence, Harmeet K. Dillon for Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. As Inauguration Day approaches, many Americans are wondering how a new administration will impact their lives. In his victory speech, Trump vowed he would govern by a simple motto: promises made, promises kept. We are going to keep our promises. Trump had promised action on issues including immigration, economy, and the war in Ukraine. Trump has threatened to reassert US control over the Panama Canal, accusing Panama of charging excessive rates to use the Central American Passage and drawing a sharp rebuke from Panamanian president. Speaking to a crowd of his supporters in Arizona on Sunday, Trump said he would not let the canal fall into the wrong hands, warning the potential Chinese influence on the passage.
We will never, ever let it fall into the wrong hands, but it's falling into the wrong hands. It was not given for the benefit of others by a token of cooperation, but it was given to Panama and to the people of Panama, but it has provisions. You got to treat us fairly, and they haven't treated us fairly. If the principles, both moral and legal, of this magnanimous gesture of giving are not followed, then we will demand that the Panama Canal be returned to the United States of America in full, quickly, and without question.
Trump also asserted that the canal, a critical maritime passage connecting the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans, was foolishly given away by the United States.
When President Jimmy Carter foolishly gave it away for $1. During his term in office, it was solely for Panama to manage and not for China or any other country to manage. You see what's going on there? China.
Trump's remarks prompted a quick rebuke from Panama's president, José Raúl Mulino, who said every square meter of the canal and surrounding area belonged to his country.
I want to express that every square meter of the Panama Canal and its adjacent areas belong to Panama and will continue to belong to Panama. The sovereignty and independence of our country are not negotiable. The canal is not controlled directly or indirectly by China, the European Community, the United States, or any other power. As a Panamanian, I reject any statement that misrepresents this reality.
The United States largely built the canal and administered territory surrounding the passage for decades. But the United States and Panama signed a pair of accords in 1977 that paved the way for the canal's return to full Panamanian control. The US handed over control of the passage in 1999 after a period of joint administration. Up to 14,000 ships cross the canal per year, including container ships carrying cars, natural gas, and other goods, and military vessels. Dheeraj Das report for DD India.
Right, shifting focus to West Asia now. Syria's de facto leader Ahmed Alara is tightening his grip on his country as he held talks on Monday with Arab diplomats who expressed support for the Syrian people and discussed about future cooperation between their countries. Qatar's Foreign Minister Mohammed Al-Khulaifi held talks with Al-Shara. Qatar has offered to provide technical support for resumption of commercial and cargo flights and maintenance of the Damascus airport during the transitional phase.
The Qatari side has voiced its readiness to begin large-scale investments on Syrian land in all fields, most importantly in the energy sector, where they have a high level of expertise on the global stage, but also investing in ports and airports and so forth.
Jordan's Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi expressed his country's support for Syria's reconstruction in a meeting with Al-Shara in Damascus on Monday. Safadi expressed support for a government that represents all spectrums in Syria, as well as for the drafting of a new constitution. Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan also met Al-Shara in Damascus. Al-Shara announced the dissolution of Syria's armed factions, including Kurdish-led forces, and their integration into a unified national army.
Within days, the Defense Ministry will be announced and a committee of high-level military leaders will be formed to design a new structure for the new Syrian army. Following that, the factions will begin to announce their dissolution and integration gradually. We will not by any means allow for arms outside the control of the state. It is the top of our priorities to work on controlling arms in the country, and I think there is a wide agreement among the factions.
Right, moving on, Canada is facing a political storm as Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's leadership crumbles under growing pressure. Calls for his resignation are now coming from within his own party, with former allies questioning his ability to govern. Even more troubling, reports suggest that dozens of Liberal Party lawmakers, including key figures, are no longer supporting him. DD India's Mihir Mercury has more.
Canada is in turmoil as Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's grip on power weakens. Even within his own party, growing calls for his resignation are coming from former allies.
People are right to be angry. They've got a Prime Minister who's more interested in protecting his own job than defending Canadians against Trump. We've got a Prime Minister who's failed to defend workers from rich CEOs that the Conservatives love, who continue to rip off Canadians and drive up the cost of food and homes. The Prime Minister has failed. For New Democrats, it's always workers first and not CEOs. And not CEOs who the Conservatives want to defend. So will the Prime Minister acknowledge he has failed? He has to quit.
Trudeau's leadership has been rocked by a series of blows. The latest, the unexpected resignation of Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, who clashed with Trudeau over US tariffs.
Prime Minister has lost the confidence of Canadians, lost the confidence of many of his MPs, and yesterday he lost the confidence of his finance minister. And no wonder, because after 9 years, this Prime Minister has broken everything. He's broken our borders, broken immigration, broken housing, and broken the budget. So, when will the Prime Minister just stop? Stop breaking things, acknowledge that he doesn't have a mandate to continue to govern, and call a carbon tax a lie.
Freeland's exit after nearly a decade of loyalty marks the first major public dissent from within Trudeau's cabinet. In a shocking revelation, Ottawa MP Chandra Arya told CBC that dozens of Liberal MPs are pushing for Trudeau's resignation. Media reports suggest more than 50 Ontario Liberals no longer support the Prime Minister. Liberal MP Anthony Housefather from Quebec added his voice to the growing chorus, saying the Prime Minister needs to go. To make matters worse, Trudeau's recent cabinet reshuffle saw a third of his ministers replaced, a clear sign of instability in his leadership. Opposition leader Jagmeet Singh has already vowed to work with other parties to bring down Trudeau's minority government early next year. Once hailed as Canada's golden boy, Trudeau is now trailing Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre by a staggering 20 points in public opinion polls. With Mihir Mercury, Tanvi Taneja for DD India.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. Tributes pour in as locals gather in Germany's Magdeburg following last week's attack that killed 5. Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico meets Russia's President Vladimir Putin in surprise Moscow visit. And some parts of the world, including northern India, in the grip of cold winter weather. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. In Germany, tributes poured in as residents gathered in front of the church close to the Magdeburg Christmas market on Sunday to show their sympathy with the victims and relatives of the attack that killed 5 and injured scores. A man suspected of ploughing a car through crowds at the market faces multiple charges of murder and attempted murder. Friday evening's attack in Magdeburg shocked the country and stirred up tensions over the charged issue of immigration. Lars Holter is with Deutsche Welle and joins me from Berlin, just an hour away from where it all happened. Lars, what can you tell us about this market and what exactly happened?
Thanks for having me. Well, first of all, I should probably clarify what exactly a Christmas market is. They're very popular here in Germany and the rest of Europe. It is a much smaller phenomenon in the rest of the world, if at all. So the month leading up to Christmas, pretty much every town here has their little market where often arts and handicrafts are sold, wood carvings, knitted or felted clothing, home decorations, often, of course, with a Christmassy theme. There's also food and Glühwein, that's a spiced hot wine. It is very good, and people usually just gather at these markets, not just to shop, but to celebrate the season. Now, this market in Magdeburg was in full swing with hundreds of people in attendance when a man drove his car right into the crowd. It's a tight crowd, of course, very little room to jump aside. So the man plowed down dozens of people who didn't have a chance to react. 5 are dead, around 20 are badly injured. It's a horrible attack, and it's reminiscent of a similar attack in Berlin 8 years ago when a terrorist also drove a truck into the crowd at a Christmas market here. Of course, this is a constant reminder that terror attacks, large and small, can happen anywhere at any time.
How is this even possible, Lars, given that such mass events tend to be protected?
Of course, ever since that Berlin attack 5 years ago, Christmas markets have been fortified. There's always huge concrete barriers surrounding the markets. And at first it bothered people because it's hard to not let these protective measures ruin your Christmas spirit. But I guess everyone got used to it, and sometimes they're disguising the concrete barriers to make them look a bit nicer and almost decorative. However, now in Magdeburg, those barriers were placed so far apart that cars actually fit through them. The local authorities said that was on purpose so that emergency vehicles could get in and out if necessary, but that's obviously a big mistake. Usually the barriers are placed with maybe a police car or something of the like in the middle, so they can be opened and closed like gates. Now it's come out that the police really used their cars in a wrong formation, making this attack now even more tragic because it very much looks like this could have been prevented.
And what do we know about the attacker? Who is he and what made him do this?
Incredibly interesting point. The attacker is a 50-year-old man named Taleb al-Abdul Mohsen. He's a Saudi citizen who's lived in Germany since 2006. In fact, he lived in a town nearby and worked in a hospital there as a doctor. Now, similar terror attacks in the past have often had an Islamistic background, were tied to the so-called Islamic State or similar groups. And here, the attacker is apparently an Islam critic. Some have called him an Islam hater. He has often protested about the regime in Saudi Arabia, the treatment of women there, and he has complained about Germany accepting more Saudis and generally Muslims into the country. He has made threats before when he was in contact with authorities. He has been in court before, so he was already seen as potentially dangerous. However, apparently at a level where police could not have yet legally intervened. The attacker was apprehended right after the attack. He's in jail now, and we will certainly find out more about what made him commit this horrible attack.
Lars, thank you. Lars Halter reporting there from Berlin. In other news, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky called Slovakia's dependence on Russian gas a risk to European security after he met Russia's President Vladimir Putin in Moscow.
Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico made a surprise visit to Moscow, holding one-on-one talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. In response, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Fico of potentially aiding Putin by continuing to import Russian gas. Zelensky pointed out that EU leaders are concerned as Fico opposes efforts to reduce energy dependence on Russia. Zelensky implied that this stance could help Putin fund the ongoing war and weaken Europe. Slovakia, which remains heavily reliant on Russian gas, faces uncertainty as a major transit contract for gas through Ukraine expires on December 31st. Ukraine has already indicated that it will not renew the deal. Zelensky also highlighted that Moscow is offering significant discounts to Fico, but warned that Slovakia is paying a heavy price, either through its sovereignty or by engaging in questionable schemes. Fico remains one of the few European leaders maintaining a friendly relationship with Moscow since the conflict between Russia and Ukraine escalated in 2022. Meanwhile, thousands gathered in Bratislava for an anti-government protest, expressing their discontent after Fico's meeting with Putin, signaling a growing divide with Slovakia. Repertoire Party for DD India.
India's economy is surging ahead with exports rising and inflation easing. In the first half of 2024, total exports reached $536 billion, driven by sectors such as electronics, engineering goods and textiles. With these gains, Indians are also benefiting as inflation drops to a 3-month low, driven by falling food prices. DD India's Mihir Mekuri reports.
India's economy is on a fast track with exports rising and inflation easing. The country now exports to over 200 nations and territories covering 31 key commodities. From April to November 2024, India's total exports stands at $536.25 billion, reflecting a growth of 7.61% compared to last year. Non-petroleum exports have also surged, reaching $239.7 billion, up 7.38% from 2023. Surpassing the previous record of $233 billion set in 2022. Key sectors driving this growth include electronic goods, engineering products, rice, marine exports, and textiles. This economic growth is also benefiting ordinary Indians. In November, the wholesale price index dropped to a 3-month low of 1.89%, primarily due to falling food prices, especially vegetables. As 2024 comes to a close, it marks a decade since the launch of Prime Minister Modi's landmark Make in India initiative. Aimed at strengthening India's manufacturing sector, it has created jobs and enhanced the country's global economic standing. Now, in its Make in India 2.0 phase, covering 27 sectors, the initiative continues to drive growth and cement India's role as a global manufacturing powerhouse. India has also reached a major milestone, becoming the world's second-largest mobile manufacturer, producing 99.2% of the smartphones sold domestically. In defense, production surged to $15.12 billion in 2023-24, with exports crossing $2.5 billion to over 90 countries. The production-linked incentive scheme remains a key catalyst for these successes, fueling innovation and efficiency across critical industries. Together, these efforts are transforming India into a global economic powerhouse, creating jobs, enhancing competitiveness, and strengthening its position in the world market. The future looks bright as India continues to lead the way in global manufacturing and exports. Mihir Makori's report, DD India.
Japan's auto giant Honda and its rival Nissan have agreed to launch merger talks in a press conference on Monday with an aim to merge by 2026. The merger is seen as a bid to catch up with the threats posed by Tesla and Chinese-made electric vehicles. This historic consolidation would create the world's third largest auto group by vehicle sales after Toyota and Volkswagen. Speaking at a press conference in Tokyo, Honda's chief executive Toshihiro Mibe said there's potential involvement of Mitsubishi Motors in these ongoing merger discussions.
We just started business integration talks between Nissan and Honda and are discussing potential involvement of Mitsubishi Motors on the current MOUs.
Right now, take a look at what else is making news around the world. Romania's outgoing President Klaus Iohannis has designated Social Democrat leader Marcel Ciolacu to form a new government. This comes after three pro-European parties finalized a parliamentary majority. The Social Democrats will hold key portfolios such as justice, transport, labour and defence, while the centrist Liberal Party takes charge of energy, interior and foreign affairs. In Siberia, researchers are studying the remarkably well-preserved remains of a juvenile mammoth discovered in thawing permafrost after over 50,000 years. The find was recovered from the Batagayka crater, a massive and expanding depression linked to climate change. Turkish authorities have seized a baby gorilla being smuggled through the country. The animal, found in a crate on a flight from Nigeria to Thailand, was intercepted and handed over to the National Parks Authority. Cold wave grips northern India with sub-zero temperatures in Himachal and Jammu and Kashmir. Delhi sees light rain and dense fog with a chilly 8.6 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, New York City records its first measurable snowfall since 2021, and northern Japan braces for heavy snow and avalanche warnings. DD India's Rahul Upadhyay gets you more.
Cold conditions have been prevailing across northern India, with some regions, including Himachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir, experiencing temperature falling below freezing point. On Monday morning, Delhi witnessed light rain, which was accompanied by dense fog. As a result, the nation's capital had a chilly start to the day, with a temperature recorded at 8.6 degrees Celsius.
Generally, weather occurs whenever it is over Afghanistan or North Pakistan. Thereafter, when it comes to J&K, generally weather reduces over the region. So whatever the weather we are expecting today only. So when it will move away from tomorrow onwards. But thereafter, there will be a northwesterly winds from the Himalayas, and there is a possibility of the drop in the minimum temperatures over the plains of northwest India.
Due to an ongoing western disturbance, the India Meteorological Department has issued an orange alert in Himachal Pradesh, while other northwestern states have been given yellow alert.
As people prepare for Christmas festivities, Delhiites today woke up to light showers and foggy morning. The temperature dipped as low as 8.6 degrees Celsius. And in the coming days, the weather department has predicted that the temperature will rise during the daytime and the temperature will dip during the night time.
Amid the cold wave in the north, a rain spell continues to hit southern India. In Tamil Nadu, rainfall warnings have been issued for this week. As per the Regional Meteorological Center in Chennai, heavy rainfall is expected on December 24 and 25. The rain alert comes due to a low-pressure area depression over the Bay of Bengal. New York City was covered with snow. The US National Weather Service reported the first measurable December snowfall since 2021 on Saturday. Some areas saw 3 to 4 inches of snow, while eastern parts of the state received about 1 inch. Upstate New York experienced lake effect snow during the week of December 13th, dumping 2 to 3 feet of snow in the Lakeview area near the Canadian border. The Japan Meteorological Agency has reported snowfall depths ranging from 50 centimeters to 100 centimeters in large areas of northern Japan. Avalanche and snowstorm warnings have been issued as part of the agency's advisories. With heavy snow expected to primarily affect northern and western regions, the agency has urged people to exercise caution. Rahul Upadhyay's report, DD India.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. An expert take on India's ties with the US and how the Trump-Modi dynamic will shape up going forward.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi attends Christmas celebrations, says Christ show the world the path of compassion and goodwill. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar to visit the US on Tuesday for talks on bilateral and global issues. And Trump appoints Indian American entrepreneur Sriram Krishnan as his advisor on artificial intelligence. But going back to the top story we are tracking here on DD India News Hour, India's ties with the US and what to expect from Trump's second term in office. Joining us is Ms. Meera Shankar. She is a former Indian ambassador to the US. Ambassador Shankar, welcome to DD India News Hour. Now, Minister Jaishankar will visit the US this week. What might be on his agenda, and would he reach out to the key members in the incoming Trump cabinet?
Sure. I think it will be to take stock of where the relationship stands today with the existing administration and to get in touch also with members of the incoming administration so that we are preparing the ground for a transition in leadership in America and the way it might impact on the relationship.
Indeed. Now, Trump has appointed Indian American entrepreneur Sriram Krishnan as his advisor on artificial intelligence. Now, he is one of 6 Indian Americans who have been inducted into the Trump government. What does that tell you about the Indian diaspora, Ambassador Shankar? Is the Indian American community finally coming into its own and becoming a force to reckon with in US domestic politics?
Yes, I think Indian Americans are increasingly visible in public life and in the business world as CEOs of major companies. Now, this was unthinkable just a decade or so back. So clearly there has been a transition in the way the community is viewed in the US and also on their ability to break glass ceilings in a number of sectors, including politics, including business. We've seen with the Biden administration also that Kamala Harris, his vice president, was of part Indian origin. So were several other key appointees, including his Surgeon General, and there were several other key appointees. Now, President Trump has also made, as you said, 6 Indian Americans appointments to key posts. So that's something to be welcomed. But, these are all Americans first.
Right.
Let's put it like that. Mm-hmm. I don't think we should have an expectation from them that, they will have some special sensitivity to India, but yes, they would have an understanding of Indian culture, broader Indian concerns. Though, as I said, we must always remember that these are people who are Americans first, though they can act as a bridge, especially those not in government, I think can act as a bridge between the two countries.
Indeed. Looking at Trump 2.0, Ambassador Shankar, how do you view Trump's threats of imposing tariffs on India?
Look, even during his last term, his first term, trade frictions were a constant in the relationship.
Right.
He withdrew GSP for India's exports. He challenged India's developing country status at the WTO and was phased out. And he imposed tariffs on steel and aluminium. India negotiated with him and then imposed reciprocal tariffs of an equivalent amount after 2 years of discussion. So I think we have to wait and see what he does. You know, the first statement he's made since his election is that he will impose 25% tariffs on goods coming in from Canada and Mexico unless they halt illegal immigration and also the flow of drugs across the border. And then he has also said that he will impose an additional 10% tariff on Chinese imports.
Right.
Now, this is a far cry from the 50 to 60% tariffs that he had threatened to impose on all Chinese imports during his campaign. So I think let's wait and see what he actually does rather than his rhetoric. His rhetoric, we know, even during his campaign, he has said, you know, tariffs is a word he loves, and he is going to impose tariffs, and he is going to ensure that there are reciprocal tariffs on India. In a recent statement where he has said, if they impose 100%, we will impose 100%. But I think let's wait and see what he actually does rather than his rhetoric. And I'm sure that India will try to negotiate pragmatically in a way which is mutually beneficial. If that doesn't work out, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Indeed. Ambassador Shankar, Prime Minister Modi is one who invests a great deal of time, energy and effort into establishing a personal rapport with world leaders. Trump and Modi enjoyed a good working relationship during Trump's first term in office. Do you think the bonhomie will continue into Trump's second term as well?
I'm sure that it will, because there are broader factors which bring the two countries together. You know, trade is one aspect of the relationship, a very important aspect, because the US is our largest export market. But when you look at the trade surplus that India has with the US, it just varies from 20 to 25 to $28 billion. It's in that region for both goods and services. So broadly balanced trade. It is China with whom the US has hundreds of billions of dollars in a trade deficit. So acting against India is not going to make a big difference to the US. You know, it doesn't really make sense. It's not going to change very much because trade with India is broadly balanced, and US exports to India have also been growing, including US service exports to India.
And finally, Ambassador Shankar, do you have a wish list of sorts, a list of things that you would like to see happen going forward? You know, the next big idea, perhaps.
Well, I would like to see some of the new initiatives carried forward. You know, the whole initiative on critical and emerging technologies. Maybe they can give it a different name if Trump feels he wants to put his own stamp on it. But I think that really holds a lot of promise. The Defense Accelerator Indus X program under which the GE jet engines are to be jointly manufactured in India. Now, of course, the deal for these, Reaper drones or armed drones. I think there's a lot in the field of defense manufacturing, high-tech manufacturing, research and development, which will help the competitiveness and economies of both countries. And I would like to see those carried forward.
Right. Ambassador Shankar, pleasure as always to talk to you. Thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts and insights with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. All right, moving on, take a look at what else is making news in India. A former judge of India's top court, Justice V. Ramasubramanian, has been appointed as the 9th chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission of India. The post had been vacant since 1st June after Justice Arun Kumar Mishra's tenure ended. Justice Ramasubramanian was also the Chief Justice of the Himachal Pradesh High Court. The Central Industrial Security Force of India introduced a new transfer and posting policy to ensure a better work-life balance for its personnel. The policy, impacting 98% of its 170,000 personnel, prioritizes choice postings for those nearing retirement, followed by women personnel, working couples and others. The Telecom Regulatory Authority of India launched a new upgraded website on Monday to broaden its reach and connect with a wider audience. The upgraded website offers comprehensive information on telecom and broadcasting regulations, policies, laws, statistics and trends in India. Nepal celebrates the 101st birth anniversary of Krishna Prasad Bhattarai, the founding leader of the Nepali Congress, formerly known as Kisunji. A pivotal figure in Nepal's transition from monarchy to a democratic multi-party system, Bhattarai served twice as Prime Minister and played a key role in the Jan Andolan movement. The ruling Nepali Congress and its sister organizations marked the occasion with commemorative events. Nepal's Ministry of Health and Population has imported human papilloma virus vaccines administered against cervical cancer with the assistance of the Global Alliance for Vaccine and Immunization. The Gavi will provide 1.77 million vaccines to Nepal. The government of Nepal has declared a vaccination drive from February 5th to protect adolescent girls from cancer from an early age. As part of the 15-day campaign, girls aged 10 to 14 from classes 6 to 10 and out of school will be vaccinated. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid tribute to the late Prime Minister and Bharat Ratna awardee Chaudhry Charan Singh on his birth anniversary that commemorates the legacy of his leadership and commitment to the nation. The Prime Minister highlighted Chaudhry Charan Singh's unparalleled dedication to welfare of farmers and rural communities. The Prime Minister acknowledged the late leader's tireless efforts in advocating for agricultural reforms and rural development, which continue to shape India's policies to this day. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Mohammad Shami deemed not fit for Test match against Australia. And Tanush Kotian replaces Ravichandran Ashwin in India's Test squad against Australia. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A member of the Christian community, while speaking to DD India, expressed happiness after attending Christmas celebrations with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi. Take a listen.
We are very happy that our Prime Minister is participating this year's Christmas celebration organized by the CBCI. For the Christians, it's a great encouragement and recognition. Christmas brings us the message of peace, and our wish and prayer is that such gestures of mutual respect will bring more peace and harmony in our country. And we appreciate all the efforts Prime Minister is taking for the betterment of communal peace and harmony.
I feel the blessing of entire India, and through the paternal words of our Honorable Prime Minister, I feel honored because I am here to request blessings and prayers from entire India.
I'm so happy that he's invited the Christian community, celebrating it and showing to the world that India is more than just states. It's an amalgamation of various kind of cultures and secular, where we live together in harmony.
It is a beautiful occasion of Christmas celebration that he came, and he wished all of us a happy Christmas, and he wished us a prosperous new year, and also he promised us that he is with us. The message of peace and harmony that he is putting before us, it is quite appreciative.
Benegal passed away on Monday in Mumbai at the age of 90. A pioneer of Indian parallel cinema, Shyam Benegal had been battling a chronic kidney-related illness. His acclaimed films include Manthan, Zubeda and Sardari Begum. In 2005, he received the prestigious Dadasaheb Phalke Award, India's highest honour in cinema. He was also conferred the Padma Shri and the Padma Bhushan by the Government of India for his outstanding contributions to the field of arts. And joining me from Mumbai is my colleague Shyama Mishra. Shyama, tell us more about the life and legacy of Shyam Benegal.
Well, Ramesh, it's a legacy that he has left behind, and for the filmmakers, the future filmmakers, to come and study what a legend Shyam Benegal was. And we've also had an opportunity to, go and take his bites, interviews several times. And that man, after doing so much for Indian cinema, after being a legendary filmmaker, bringing in new wave cinema in India, giving a new direction to the films in India, he was so down to earth and always spoke so nicely about the related topics. And he was also very fond, and he knew the potential that Indian cinema had and the Indian filmmakers had. So he was a visionary, and with the films that you've already mentioned, there were so many movies that actually gave a new direction, like the Bhumika, Anand, Nishant, Manthan. Lately, we did see that in the Cannes Film Festival of 2024, Manthan was selected to be premiered, to be screened as as a redoing of the old classics in the classics section, and people really appreciated that. However, because of the illness Shyam Benegal was battling, he could not be there, but the rest of the cast and crew were present at Cannes Film Festival. Here also, as we are talking about his illness, he had to visit hospitals in weeks, several times in week, because he had to do his dialysis, and that's because of this kidney related ailment. However, we are seeing that the man never stopped working. Whenever we used to go to his office, he was always surrounded by filmmakers and new works, and he always kept on working. So that was his life. After giving so much to the Indian cinema, this man never stopped working. And as you're talking about Cannes Film Festival, in 1977, his movie was actually selected for the prestigious Palme d'Or, and we understand what potential his movie or Indian movie had at that time, that it was selected for the prestigious film festival. Over the years also, we have seen various of his works, and he has given, like I was mentioning, he has given new direction He has given new direction to the film stars as well. And if you see Shabana Azmi, Smita Patil, Nasiruddin Shah, these are the gems of Indian cinema. And it would not be wrong if we say that Shyam Benegal was the one to actually give them a new shape, actually give them a new polish. And that's how they gave in their best performances to the Indian cinema. And they'll be forever known for various roles they have performed in Shyam Benegal's movies.
Indeed, Shyama, thank you. Indeed, a huge loss for India and Indian cinema in particular. To sports news now, the BCCI has confirmed that Mohammad Shami is unfit for the remaining 2 tests of the Border Gavaskar Trophy against Australia because of a minor swelling on his left knee. Following an evaluation by the BCCI medical team, it was established that additional time is necessary to manage the bowling workload on his knee. As a result, Shami has been declared unfit for selection. The Indian pacer has not played any format of international cricket since the ODI World Cup 2023 final against Australia. Mumbai's off-spinning all-rounder Tanush Kotiyan is set to join the Indian men's team in Australia after Ravichandran Ashwin's retirement from international cricket. The 26-year-old Kotiyan, who is currently a part of the Mumbai team in the ongoing Vijay Hazare Trophy, is expected to join the squad in Melbourne ahead of the 3rd test. Kotiyan has featured in 33 first-class games, scoring 1,525 runs and picking 101 wickets at an average of 25.7. He was awarded the Player of the Tournament in Mumbai's Ranji Trophy winning campaign in 2023-24, where he amassed 502 runs and also picked up 29 wickets. Australian batter Travis Head was absent in net session on Monday ahead of the Boxing Day Test match against India in the ongoing Border Gavaskar Trophy. Head limped between wickets while batting in the 2nd innings of the 3rd test in Brisbane last Wednesday, which raised concerns over his fitness. Notably, the southpaw was missing from the field later that day. In the post-match presentation, Head addressed the concerns around him and said he is just sore and should be fine before the next game. Tennis stars have begun arriving in Australia ahead of the United Cup, a mixed team tournament that will provide some preparation for next month's Australian Open. The event is set to take place in Sydney and Perth and will feature 18 countries. Among those arriving in Perth over the weekend were Germany's Alexander Zverev, Canada's Felix Auger-Aliassime and China's Zhang Zhizhen. India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has launched an OTT platform called Waves. Waves provides complete infotainment ecosystem to digital audience and OTT media. If you want great content for free, then download Waves now. That's all for this edition of DD India News. I'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. All of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.